Funny how chaos works, isn't it? You weren't looking for glory. You weren't chasing power. You just made one move. Small, instinctive, almost careless. And the universe blinked. The man you pulled from the fire wasn't just anyone. He was a master, high-ranking, untouchable. And now every shadow that once stood above you has turned its head in your direction. See, there are rules in their world. Debts aren't forgotten. Favors aren't optional. You saved one life, and in return, an entire order is bound by honor, obligation, and fear. You didn't climb the ladder collapsed beneath them, and you're standing at the top, smiling while they figure out how to kneel. Funny thing about power. Most people think it's built brick by brick, carefully planned, each step measured, each move calculated. They picture long nights plotting, strategies scribbled across parchment, armies of loyal followers ready to obey. But that's not how it works, not really. Power has a sense of humor. It sneaks in sideways. It slips through cracks when you're not paying attention. And sometimes it lands on you because of the tiniest, most insignificant choice you didn't even think mattered. You see, one small action can shift the balance of power. Think about it. You reach out your hand at the right moment. Help someone who didn't even ask. Say a word you didn't realize carried weight. A flicker of instinct, a spark of chance, and suddenly the world you thought you understood has rearranged itself. The rules change. The players shift. Suddenly, those who towered over you, those who whispered their threats behind closed doors, are looking at you differently. And the oddest part, you didn't ask for it. You weren't plotting, you weren't scheming. You just acted, and the ripple began. It's ironic, isn't it? People scramble their whole lives for influence, for respect, for acknowledgement, and it often eludes them. They chase titles, climb ladders, buy loyalty, manipulate situations. And still they wake up to find they're no closer to the power they crave. Then there are others, people like you, who make a move on a whim, almost absent-mindedly, and suddenly the landscape tilts in their favor. One small gesture, and suddenly you're not just part of the game. You're controlling pieces you didn't even know existed. You're a ghost in the machinery, and the machine bends to your existence. And the thing about these moments is that they are invisible to most. Most people see the climb, the overt struggle, the visible fight, but they miss the subtle shift, the quiet avalanche that starts with a whisper of action. One moment, nothing seems different. You help someone. You save someone. You speak up. And then, like dominoes falling in a darkened room, the world starts moving around you. People who had power over you are now beholden. People who dismissed you as insignificant now watch your every step. And all of it, because of a single action that seemed trivial at the time. Power doesn't always arrive with a crown. Sometimes it arrives with a glance, a word, a choice that seems inconsequential. And those who understand it, those who see the pattern in the chaos, they smile. They know that what looks small can be catastrophic. One move, almost accidental, and suddenly your name is not just remembered. It is feared. It is respected. It carries weight. And the most delicious part, you never asked for it. The universe, or whatever twisted sense of irony runs this game, just decided you should have it. There's a certain thrill in that, isn't there? Knowing that all the careful plotting, all the scheming, all the scrambling for dominance isn't the only path. That sometimes the real shift comes from instinct, from spontaneity, from daring to act when no one else does. One small action, it can tilt allegiances, rewrite hierarchies, and turn the invisible into a force that demands attention. And once that shift begins, once that balance starts to tip, you start to understand the true comedy of power. It isn't earned the way they tell you. It isn't measured in titles or wealth or armies. Sometimes it lands on you like a shadow in the night, silent, unstoppable, and irrevocable. Obligations, favors, debts, words that sound boring, almost polite in normal life. But in the shadows, in the hidden corners where real power breathes, they are chains. Invisible chains, yes, but unbreakable, unrelenting, and often more terrifying than swords or armies. When you save someone, a master, a high-ranking figure in a world built on secrecy, hierarchy, and rigid codes, you don't just give them life. You ink a contract without paper, a bond without signatures, a promise without a sound. And suddenly, the balance of the world tilts towards you, because what you have now is leverage. See, they operate on rules most people never even notice. Honor, obligation, debt, not the casual debts of a coffee borrowed or a favor returned at Thanksgiving. No, these debts are woven into the very fabric of their order. Every gesture, every kindness, every life spared becomes a note in a ledger that cannot be ignored. You saved him. You thought it was instinct. You thought it was mercy. But in their world, mercy carries weight. Mercy demands acknowledgement, and acknowledgement demands repayment. Not tomorrow, not someday. Eventually, yes, but always, inevitably, a repayment that can change everything. And here's the delicious irony. You never asked for it. You didn't stand there calculating the consequences, weighing the risks, imagining a world where an entire order bows to your will. You acted because it was the thing to do, because your hands moved faster than your thoughts, because instinct overruled logic for a moment. And yet, that one impulsive act has become a key that opens doors you didn't even know existed, doors that were barred to everyone else, doors that now swing toward you, because honor and obligation are blind guides, and they follow rules far older and stricter than fear or power. Imagine it. The world you thought you understood suddenly rearranged itself around a single action. The master you saved now owes you, not in words, not in empty promises, but in the subtle, absolute way that governs those who live by codes older than empires. His eyes, once distant, calculating, now hold a measure of respect, maybe even fear. And his order, that vast, unseen network of shadows and whispers, will move, eventually, to honor what you have earned without trying. They don't know how yet, but they will. Obligation is patient. Obligation is cunning. Obligation is a predator that waits for the right moment to strike, and once it does, you realize the scope of what has shifted. And the beauty of it, the true beauty, is that they can't ignore it. They can try to rationalize, to dismiss, to rewrite their codes in their own minds. But the truth is there, embedded in every action and reaction you are owed. Your mercy is their chain. Your instinct is their law. They live by rules that bind them to repay, and repay they must. And because they cannot break these rules without shattering themselves, they are forced into a dance where you lead, whether you intend to or not. Power, influence, dominance. It isn't always built with swords or schemes or threats. Sometimes it's an accident. Sometimes it's a moment of clarity or instinct that the universe rewards in the most twisted, ironic way. By saving him, you didn't just spare a life. You shifted the game. You changed the rules. You became the silent hand that moves pieces, the shadow that directs the outcome, the unseen force that governs their choices. And they can't fight it. They can't deny it. They can't escape it. Obligation is absolute. Debt is eternal. Favor is a currency you now hold in amounts they can never repay, and every subtle nod, every covert glance, every whispered command echoes the truth you are owed, and the world must bend to that reality. Influence. Most people think it's loud, flashy, something that announces itself with a roar. They imagine it as a crown, a throne, a title, a legion of followers cheering your name. But influence is subtler than that. Influence doesn't knock politely. It creeps in, like a whisper in a dark room, like a shadow stretching across the floor, like a suggestion planted so quietly that the person doesn't even know they're following it. And here's the twist. The most potent influence often comes from unexpected moments, from actions that seem inconsequential to anyone watching, from choices that the world assumes will vanish without consequence. Picture this: you did something small, a flicker of instinct, a blink of mercy, a momentary decision that passed unnoticed by everyone except the one who mattered most. You weren't trying to impress anyone. You weren't trying to gain followers. You weren't even thinking in terms of strategy. You just acted, and yet that single act echoes louder than any proclamation, louder than any effort spent calculating steps or manipulating outcomes. Influence doesn't care about intention. Influence doesn't ask for permission. Influence waits, bides its time, and then strikes in the most elegant, insidious way. Here's what's delicious about influence. It's deceptive. People look at you and think you are powerless because you didn't wield the hammer, because you didn't announce your intentions, because you didn't step into the spotlight. But the world has a funny way of rewarding subtlety. Those who live by codes, by honor, by unseen rules, notice things most people overlook. They see actions, not words. They feel currents, not surfaces. And when you touch one of those currents, even by accident, the flow begins to bend toward you. Suddenly, your presence matters. Your decisions carry weight. The ones who once towered over you now regard you with caution, curiosity, maybe even respect. It's intoxicating, isn't it, to realize that influence doesn't always come from seeking it. It doesn't come from climbing ladders or battling enemies or crafting perfect strategies. Sometimes it comes from being present at the right moment, from acting when no one else acts, from responding when the world expects hesitation. One small gesture, one choice, one impulsive act, and suddenly you are a pivot around which others turn. And the more subtle the action, the more undeniable the effect. Because when they realize you hold influence over outcomes they once controlled, it's too late to reclaim it. You've already shifted the balance, and they are dancing to a rhythm they didn't even hear being played. And the most dangerous part, influence grows quietly. It's not a firework. It's a slow, burning flame that spreads through cracks, through whispers, through glances and nods. Those who once doubted you now listen. Those who ignored you now anticipate your moves. And all of this because you acted in a way that seemed ordinary, insignificant, even accidental. That's the thrill of influence. It sneaks past defenses, sidesteps expectations, and settles into a place where it cannot be challenged. The irony is beautiful. The world teaches us to fight for control, to demand attention, to assert dominance. But the universe, in its twisted humor, often hands influence to those who least expect it, to those who didn't even ask for it, to those who acted without thought of consequence. And once it's in your hands, once it's woven into the fabric of reality around you, you realize that influence is far more powerful than fear, far more subtle than force, far more terrifying than any sword. It doesn't scream. It doesn't threaten. It doesn't demand. Yet it bends the world quietly, inevitably, and irrevocably. Power. Everyone thinks they understand it, don't they? They imagine it as something earned, something fought for, something wrested from the world with blood, sweat, and strategy. But real power often emerges when you least expect it, when you aren't even looking for it, when you move through life with your eyes wide open, but your intentions optional. You see, dominance isn't always declared. Sometimes it's revealed. Sometimes it slips into your hands quietly, like a shadow stretching across a floor you didn't know existed, like a gust of wind that topples the tallest tower without anyone noticing. Think about it, you didn't chase this power. You didn't scheme, you didn't plan, you didn't step onto some battlefield thinking, "Today I will be the master." No. You acted on instinct, on impulse, on a small decision that seemed meaningless in the moment. And yet, that small decision, it changed everything. It shifted how people see you, how they measure you, how they react around you. Suddenly, you're not just part of the game. You are a force that the game itself must account for. Dominance doesn't always come with a crown. Sometimes it arrives in the quiet certainty that your presence alone can alter outcomes, that your choices alone can bend allegiances, that your very being becomes a pivot around which the world rotates. It's intoxicating, really, when you notice it. The ones who once dismissed you, laughed at you, ignored you, they start to measure their words. They start to calculate their moves. They start to watch you the way a predator watches prey that doesn't yet know it can fight back. And why? Not because you demanded respect, not because you screamed for attention, but because you exist in a space that forces them to acknowledge a truth they cannot deny. You are the boss now. And whether they like it or not, their actions must now account for your presence. And here's the beautiful part. Power in this form is sly. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't flash banners or wave flags. It whispers. It insinuates. It creeps into every interaction, every glance, every decision. And suddenly, those around you are dancing to a rhythm you didn't consciously create. They are triggered, reacting, adjusting, bending. And all because of one simple fact: you have emerged in a place where no one expected you to. A position where your influence cannot be ignored. A moment where your dominance is not just recognized. It is inevitable. It's funny how fragile the illusion of control can be. People spend lifetimes building walls, establishing hierarchies, declaring who is above and who is below. And then someone moves. A single, seemingly accidental act. And suddenly those walls crumble. Hierarchies shift, and the illusion dissolves. You didn't ask for this. You didn't manipulate, didn't bribe, didn't threaten. You acted, and the universe responded. The world has a twisted sense of humor. It loves to reward instinct, impulsiveness, and clarity with power the planners only dream about. And now you're living proof that dominance isn't always fought for. It's often realized. And what's intoxicating, what's terrifying, is that this dominance is not static. It doesn't sit still like a throne waiting for challengers. No, it moves. It evolves. It demands recognition. It commands respect. It forces reactions. Every subtle gesture, every choice, every move you make now ripples across the world around you. And those who were once confident, who were once untouchable, now measure their steps carefully. For they know instinctively that the game has shifted. And that you are the one setting the tempo. The most exhilarating part of all of this is that you didn't even seek it. It wasn't the result of meticulous planning, endless scheming, or relentless ambition. It emerged from action, from instinct, from daring to act when the world expected hesitation. Power, real power, doesn't always arrive at the front door. Sometimes it slips in through a crack, a moment unnoticed, a decision unremarkable to anyone else, and before they realize it, the balance has changed and you are at the apex, watching as the world bends quietly around your newfound dominance.